Welcome to the Porn Reboot Podcast, where you get practical tips to gaining control over your porn or sex addiction. We help ambitious men end their out-of-control sexual behavior with pornography, sex, and masturbation so that you can maximize your life, perform at your potential, and remain in control in the driver's seat, which is where you have to be in order to gain or maintain the success you want in life. I'm your host, J.K. Emezi, certified sex and porn addiction recovery coach. Welcome to the episode.
Brothers, we will continue with the series on stages of your reboot. Today, we're going to be progressing through the different stages of your reboot when it comes to setting goals. I am often shocked at the number of men who do not set goals. Clear goals, written goals, SMART goals. By SMART, it's the acronym for specific, measurable, achievable, based in reality, and having a time attached to it, a deadline. So many men do not write their goals down. Brother, I want to make it clear to you, you have to write your goals down every single day. In fact, in the early stages of my reboot, I was writing my goals down in the morning and in the evening. Until now, I have so many notebooks that I've filled. I used to use a yellow notepad, and I used to fill them out, those yellow, what do you call them? Those big old sheets you can turn the pages, flip the pages over. Yeah, yellow pad. And I would just write my goals down every morning, every evening, every morning, every evening. You got to put pen to paper. You have to make it clear, a reality for you. It has to be a habit that you adhere to. Nevertheless, there are certain habits and behaviors we have around goal setting and mindsets. And I'm going to share what I've observed over the years. And again, this is just a guide for what I've observed men doing and how you can also identify where you are in your reboots and how you can jump ahead in some areas. So if, for instance, I share how men who are in the maintenance stage of their reboot actually set their goals, you can start trying to do that. A few episodes ago, I spoke about how the best way to change your self-image is not just through hard work and willpower, but it is to sit down and actually get clear about who you're going to be in the future, who you're going to be at the end of the year, and then ask yourself, what would that version of me do? What would the rebooted version of me? What would the successful version of me? What would the fit version of me? What would the faithful version of me? What would that version of me do? How would he act? And then start acting like him today. So when you hear me speak about the maintenance stage and how a man in that stage behaves, there's nothing wrong with beginning to incorporate it in your life right now. When it comes to goal setting in the early stage, there is a tendency to be very reactive. You are reacting to complexities in your life or uncertainties with no goals or strategy. You might even be in the middle stage or the late stage. But if you experience a relapse, you will notice that your goals go out the window. And when I ask clients who are in a relapse, hey, well, what's happening with this and this? They can't tell me anything with certainty. They suddenly realize, oh my goodness, I haven't been sticking to the plan. I've been so discombobulated that all I do is react. I'm just reacting. I'm constantly putting out fires. This is draining your energy. This is leading to stress. And of course, you're medicating this stress with more pornography and you're stuck in a vicious cycle. In the middle stage of your reboot, this is where you start setting up and working with a very simple plan. It's a sensible plan. It makes sense. And it's often a year-by-year plan. I used to do a training every year. Last year was the last year that I did it. And when I say the last year, it means I'm not doing it again. It's called How to Make Whatever that next year is, your best year ever. And it was about how to set up your year, how I set up my year in quarters, how I set my goal. It came with a worksheet, and how I accomplish my goals most years. And I grow year after year after year because I have a system. So it's about setting up and working like, okay, cool. All I'm going to do is focus on the things I need to accomplish this quarter. I only need to focus on 3 things this quarter. And that's all you focus on. You're not worrying about December. You're not worrying about October. You're just doing what is necessary right now. That's at the middle stage. The late stage of your reboots, you're typically working with a much bigger timeline. So typically, it's a 5-year plan. And I see men doing this not just with their sexual behavior, but also with their business and with their personal life. When I tell men to set their goals right at the early stage of their reboot, I always say write down what you're going to accomplish this year, in the next 3 years, and in the next 5 years. But with the emphasis being on the next 3 years. Why? Because it's so much easier to visualize what you can do in 3 years than it is to visualize what you can do in 5 years. And when it comes to our 1-year goal, we have a tendency to overestimate what we can accomplish within a year. And that's why it is something you start developing in the late stage of your reboot, because you already have experience setting 1-year goals and accomplishing them. You will start noticing as you go through this series that even though you identify with being at a certain stage of your reboot, you start identifying in the episodes in the series, you're like, man, I'm really identifying with maybe the middle stage in all these different things, or with the early stage, or maybe with the late stage. This is going to help you as you go through the series to identify where you're at. So again, late stages, you're working typically with a longer plan of about 5 years. You have more belief in yourself. It's a bigger goal. You're more patient with yourself. And this is a trait that you develop as you go through your reboot. Men who believe that they can permanently end their behavior in 90 days often end up being overconfident and overestimating what they can accomplish in other areas of their life in a very short period of time. You can control this behavior in 90 days, brother. But remember, it took you many years to build up the habits, to build up beliefs. All those things don't disappear in 90 days. You can stop watching pornography. You can stop compulsively masturbating in a 90-day period. But how do you make sure that you don't go back to that behavior 6 months later or within the year? You have to continue, and you have to set bigger goals for what you want. You need to step out of that self-image. You need to create a new lifestyle. And when you actually mature in your reboot, you come to realize that you just cannot do these things in a couple of months. You may have to set yourself up for a few years. Even though I was able to control my behavior within a certain amount of time, 1.5 to 2 years, there were still other things in my life I needed to focus on. Time management, my work ethic, my spiritual life, my relationships with other people. And these things did not all happen within 2 or 3 years. Actually, it took about 5 years for all those things to happen. I also shared in the past that it often takes you 5 years to do the thing you need to really do. It doesn't matter whether it is investing in real estate. It doesn't matter whether it is getting a certain type of insurance, whether it is getting into a relationship or getting married or buying a house or getting professional help for a problem you have. I've noticed it in myself, and our data at Elevated Recovery for the past 12 years shows that it takes most men about 5 years from when they first heard about us to actually become a client in the program. It took me about 5 years from knowing that I should invest in real estate to actually pull the trigger. Because you know that you need to do it. You'll research, you get scared, you think you don't have enough resources, you'll download a bunch of stuff, you'll read, you'll talk to people, something else will come up in your life, you'll get distracted, you got reminded that you need to do it again, something will happen in your life and you'll tell yourself, oh my God, I really need to do this. It takes about 5 years to get to that point. And that's how long it takes to go through the different stages of change. This pre-contemplation where you're just like, should I do this? Do I need it? Is this the right thing for me? I'm not sure. Then there's contemplation. At this point, you're doing the research. You're like, you know what? I'm going to find the right person for me. This person I don't think they have enough experience. I don't think they match my personality. Then there's preparation. This is where you start preparing to take action. I'm using the analogy of buying a home. You start saving money, you start seeing if you can get pre-approved, you start looking at interest rates, you're ready to do it. You know you're going to do it at some point. Then there's action. You actually start looking at listings, you find what you want, you put in an offer, and then you go in and then there's maintenance. You maintain whatever it is that you've gained. That process takes about 5 years. Men will listen to the podcast, but then they'll listen to other people as well, or they'll see me on YouTube or get an email, but then they believe they can do it on their own. Then you have a relapse. You're in the relapse for a while, you come out of it. Now this is 8 months to a year in. So you decide, you know what, I'm going to listen to the podcast. I'm going to pay attention. I'm going to take notes. I'm going to take action. So you start doing that. Maybe you join our Facebook group. You try to get accountability. You spend another year and a half in there actually trying to do this on your own. But you realize that you're still struggling. You're like, yeah, I've made some progress. I think I'm in the middle stage. But this is taking too long. And things are progressing in my life as well. So you get on a call with the reboot strategist. But then you get scared. You're like, oh my God, this means that if I'm getting on the call, it means that I have to join the program. I don't know if I'm ready for this. This is crazy. Maybe I'm not working hard enough. I really haven't been disciplined. So you don't make the decision. Long story short, it'll take you about 5 years before you become a part of the program. So this maturity from having these experiences over time allows you to set goals in a realistic way. And then at the maintenance stage, this is where men are operating in a much bigger way. You're operating off how you feel. You understand how to manage your emotional state. So you know the type of emotional state you need to be in to set realistic goals. You're no longer uncertain. You are outcome independent. It doesn't matter to you whether you make it or not. And that's because you've got a lot of experience behind you and you're not attached to things. You know what you can control, what you can influence, and what you should not pay attention to. You also know how to motivate yourself. You know how to generate excitement for your goal that is going to last a long time. And finally, you have surrounded yourself with the right people and the right environment that encourages this. Have you noticed that sometimes when you set big goals for yourself, one of the reasons why you can't take action on that goal or you can't be consistent in that goal is because your environment sucks or the people around you suck. So you constantly have to listen to podcasts or go on YouTube or find forums, but you're never in the environment. You're never in the right city, in the right room, or speaking to those people one-on-one or in a group, the people who can help encourage your goals. But by the maintenance stage, you've learned the importance of actually physically being in these places. And if like that might mean getting on a plane and flying to those places. This is what I did. To be around people who were investing in the businesses I wanted to invest in, I had to get on a plane and I had to fly out there to meet them. Last year, I flew out to Hawaii to be around some CEOs. I also flew out to Japan. We had a meeting in the bullet train from Tokyo to Kyoto. I vividly remember the conversation I was having with the CEO of one of the largest real estate investment firms in Australia. As the bullet train zoomed past Mount Fuji, we stopped for a moment to take pictures of it in the distance. They're on my Facebook. But I flew out to Japan just to have this meeting because it was the one place that was easiest for a lot of the CEOs from Australia and those from the US to meet. And it was a good way to weed out people who are not serious at operating at that level. Those who are not serious were like, nah, I can't go to Japan. It's too much. I was like, it's crazy, but let's go. Japan, let's do it. So you know how to be around the people who can multiply your success. So in the maintenance stage, when it comes to goal setting, you are operating from wins from the past. You know what you're excited about, so you know how to motivate yourself. And you also know how to motivate yourself in the future as well. I'm thinking of a different way to explain this, but I think that's enough because if you're there, you know you're there. If you don't know how to get there, we're happy to help you get there. But that is what the process of goal setting looks like as you go through the different stages of your reboots. A gentle reminder to please listen to the entire series. It's going to make sense as you go through it. If you listen to just one episode, this might seem very arbitrary. It might seem quite generalized, and it's not going to make sense. When you listen to the entire series, you will start noticing that you are falling firmly into one stage of the reboot. And if you're not in our program, where we can sit down with you directly and tell you what stage you're in, by going through this series, you will be able to identify. You're like, I keep falling into this stage. That's likely the stage you're at by the time you go through 4 of these episodes. That's the stage of your reboot that you're at. I appreciate you listening. I'll see you in the next episode in this series.
I'm JK, your brother in this struggle. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Porn Reboot podcast. I'll speak to you later on in the week. If you found this episode helpful, here are 4 ways I can help you with your out-of-control sexual behavior for free. The first way is to grab a free copy of my book, Confessions of a Porn Addict, 7 Secrets of Porn-Free Men at elevatedrecovery.org, or visit the link in the description below this episode. The second way is, if you're not sure where to start, but you'd like to learn more about my team and I, if you'd like to spend time with like-minded professionals and business owners who are controlling their behavior, then join our free and confidential group, the Porn Reboot Group on Facebook. There's a link to join in the description below this episode. The third way is if you need help right now because you have a burning issue, your behavior with pornography is hurting you mentally or emotionally, you're about to lose your relationship, you want to live up to your potential, be an authentic man, and free yourself from shame, guilt, and underachieving, then click on the link in the description below this episode that says free coaching call. And the fourth way is to leave us a 5-star review if you enjoy this podcast, so that we can reach more men who are struggling in silence and bring back the lessons we learn from coaching them to freedom.